He only wanted to do his job, serve with dignity like he did every day. But when a powerful tycoon walked into that upscale restaurant, the room fell silent. What happened next wasn't just laughter. It was humiliation, cutting deeper than anyone realized. Yet the man they underestimated was about to turn the tables in a way no one expected. This wasn't just a moment of mockery. It became a lesson the world needed to hear. And the question remains, when power and prejudice collide, who truly walks away victorious?
Marcus had always been proud of his work. As a young black man, he had earned a job at one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, a place where polished floors gleamed, crystal glasses sparkled, and wealthy clients walked in expecting nothing less than perfection. To Marcus, it wasn't just a paycheck, it was dignity. Every tray he carried, every smile he gave, was his way of proving that he belonged in a space many believed wasn't meant for him. But behind those chandeliers and white tablecloths, there was an unspoken tension. Not everyone who dined there looked at Marcus as a professional. Some only saw the color of his skin. Still, he pressed on, telling himself that respect would come if he worked hard enough. That night seemed no different. The restaurant buzzed with its usual energy, couples whispering over wine, businessmen laughing too loud, and Marcus moving swiftly through it all, balancing grace and speed like an art. He had no idea that within minutes his composure would be tested in front of everyone, because among the evening's guests was a man whose wealth and arrogance made him untouchable in the eyes of many. And for Marcus, one encounter with him would ignite a chain of events that no one in that restaurant would ever forget.
Marcus carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew his work well. He had survived long nights, difficult guests, and the weight of silent prejudice. But nothing prepared him for the moment the doors opened and the tycoon walked in. The man was larger than life, his presence commanding the room. People straightened in their seats, whispers trailed behind him, and Marcus felt the pressure immediately. This was no ordinary guest. This was someone who believed the world bent to his will. From the start, the arrogance showed. He dismissed the hostess with a wave, demanded the best table without so much as a greeting, and ordered wine that cost more than Marcus made in a week. Marcus approached with his usual poise, determined to serve like he always did. But the man's eyes narrowed. Not at the food, not at the service, but at Marcus himself. The first remark was subtle, cloaked in humor for the table's amusement. A comment about how surprising it was to see someone like him in a place like this. Laughter followed, the kind of laughter that cuts sharper than words. Marcus forced a smile, his training pulling him through, but inside a storm was brewing. He had endured slights before, but something about this felt different. Each trick to the table made the tension worse. The tycoon grew bolder, his comments louder, his smirk wider. He mimicked Marcus's voice, mocked his presence, even questioned whether he was qualified to be there at all. The other diners shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke. Wealth had a way of silencing people, and Marcus was left standing alone in a sea of judgment. But the tycoon wasn't finished. He leaned back in his chair, glass in hand, and delivered the line that made Marcus's chest tighten, a mocking laugh about how men like him should stick to their place. The table roared, the sound echoing across the room. Marcus's hands trembled as he gripped the tray tighter, his pride and his pain colliding in that single moment. And yet what stunned Marcus more than the insult was the silence that followed. No one defended him, not the servers who worked beside him, not the manager watching from a distance, not even the guests who clearly recognized the cruelty. He was invisible, except for the humiliation placed on his shoulders. The night dragged forward, each second heavier than the last. Marcus moved through the dining room like a ghost, his thoughts burning with rage and disbelief. He could swallow his pride and finish the shift, or he could do something that no one expected. The choice sat like a weight in his chest. And as the tycoon raised his glass again, preparing yet another cruel remark, Marcus felt the world slow. Every eye was on him, every word was poised to sting, and every step he took next would decide not just his dignity, but it would decide how history remembered that night.
The laughter rang out again, sharp and cruel, bouncing off the polished walls. Marcus stood frozen, tray in hand, every nerve in his body screaming to walk away. But then, something shifted. The humiliation that had weighed him down all evening turned into something else: resolve. His hands no longer shook, his voice no longer trembled. He set the tray down with deliberate calm, the room watching as though time itself had stopped. And then Marcus straightened his shoulders, his gaze fixed firmly on the tycoon. For the first time all night, the power dynamic shifted. It wasn't the wealthy man towering above a waiter. It was one human being holding another accountable. Without raising his voice, he spoke clearly enough for the entire dining room to hear. His words cut through the air, sharp and undeniable. He didn't insult, he didn't mock, he simply held up a mirror, reminding the tycoon and everyone else in that room that true worth was never measured in money, skin color, or social status. It was measured in dignity, in humanity, in the way one treated others. The silence that followed was deafening. Glasses stopped clinking. Forks froze midair. The tycoon's smirk faltered, his arrogance slipping into something else, something closer to fear. He had expected compliance. He had expected submission. What he hadn't expected was defiance, calm and unshakable, standing right in front of him. In that moment, Marcus wasn't just a waiter. He became a voice for every quiet injustice endured, every silent humiliation swallowed. His words carried the weight of generations, and the truth could not be laughed away. And as the entire restaurant held its breath, the question hung heavy in the air. Would this act of courage bring consequences Marcus couldn't escape? Or would it finally force everyone in that room to see what they had ignored for far too long? The restaurant never forgot that night. Some guests lowered their heads in shame, realizing they had sat silent while cruelty unfolded before them. Others whispered afterward, calling Marcus brave once it was safe to do so. And the tycoon, once untouchable, left with a silence heavier than any applause. His wealth could buy him many things, but not the respect that he had just lost. For Marcus, the consequences were mixed. The sting of humiliation never vanished completely, but neither did the strength he found in standing tall. He had risked his job, his reputation, perhaps even his safety, but he had protected something far greater, his dignity. And that moment of courage became larger than the room it happened in. It became a reminder that silence only protects the powerful, while truth gives strength to the powerless. Yet, the story doesn't end with Marcus, because his experience is not unique. It echoes in restaurants, offices, schools, and streets across the world, where laughter becomes a weapon, silence becomes complicity, and dignity is tested again and again. The question that lingers is not just about what Marcus did, it's about what we do. When we see injustice, do we look away? Do we laugh along? Or do we choose, like Marcus, to stand in the quiet power of truth? Because racism isn't always shouted. Sometimes it's whispered behind crystal glasses. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone to confront it. The real test is whether we remain silent or whether we finally speak. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you witness prejudice, will you be part of the silence or part of the change?